Oklahoma's unemployment rate of 4.3% remains well below the national rate, and average wages are up for almost every sector of the economy. Still, economic growth benefits, including higher wages, are not enjoyed by all, and Oklahoma's public sector has not fully recovered from the Great Recession.
Despite recent upticks in the state's jobless rate, most Oklahomans are still able to find work. Job growth has trended steadily upward since the recession ended 6 years ago, and overall, wages have risen as well. Between 2009 and 2014, average annual income in Oklahoma rose from $37,238 to $43,774. Oklahoma Employment Security Commission economist Lynn Gray says the energy sector has played a significant role in that wage growth as the fracking boom spurred hiring in the oil patch through 2014.
It's up around 40%. The state as a whole has grown a little over 5%. And so a significant number of the new jobs that we've had in the last 5 years from 09 to 14 were in oil and gas.
Nationally, wage growth is concentrated in the middle of the country, areas of high oil and gas production. Oklahoma reflects that trend, especially in the western part of the state, where an influx of workers earning good wages can make counties' wage averages skyrocket. Wage growth can also be seen in several other sectors of the state's economy.
Manufacturing, construction, finance and insurance all grew at a little bit faster rate than did oil and gas. But when you look at the employment change there, I think that would be the primary driver.
One area that still lags behind the rest of the state is the public sector. Average wages for state workers rose from $38,123 in 2009 to $41,820 in 2014. Gray says even those numbers can be misleading because employment in state government has dropped by more than 3,000 employees since the economic downturn.
If more of the lower paid staff left state government than the higher paid staff, then the average would naturally go up without anyone receiving an increase in pay. The average is just higher, but you wouldn't have an individual who actually earned more than they did in 2009.
Following a study of state employee pay 2 years ago, State Representative Leslie Osborne introduced a bill in the 2014 legislative session establishing a compensation program to bring state employee pay to 90% of the private sector. According to the language in House Bill 3293, the legislature will be accountable for the funding of the pay structures established pursuant to the compensation program. Osborne says lawmakers were able to appropriate funds for some raises last year.
But anything else would be actually, I believe that it's either in our Constitution or statute that we are not able to appropriate monies that have not even been collected yet. So what we all agreed to was that this was just something we would take on a handshake and that we would continue this journey.
Just over 12,000 state employees, including corrections officers, highway patrol troopers, and child welfare workers, got a raise last year. That left about 2 out of 3 state workers, some of whom have gone more than 8 years without an increase, still waiting. Osborne says state employee pay raises were not a priority in this year's legislative session because of a $611 million budget hole, and salary increases are highly unlikely next year.
We have a hole close to last year's hole. We're going to be in exactly the same place where it's going to be virtually impossible to do either one. I'm just going to be honest.
Sterling Zerle is executive director of the Oklahoma Public Employees Association.
We've got to figure out and put state employee pay as a priority. And what's frustrating to us is we seem to be going backwards on the pay instead of going forward.
The state is Oklahoma's largest employer. Zerle argues increasing pay for state employees would boost Oklahoma's overall economy.
It's just like tourism. I happened to be down at Beavers Bend yesterday. That's a huge economic impact for those areas. And state employees use their salaries, and they're no different than anybody else. They spend money in the local community.
Recent layoffs in the oil and gas industry, combined with limited wage growth in the public sector, are now raising concerns among economists that Oklahoma is heading toward wage stagnation.